Hi there! Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Julie DiMatteo from thepaperpixie.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the US, and in this video tutorial I have this adorable triangular explosion box featuring the Sweet Symmetry suite of products, and I want to give a shout out to Brigitte Keiling from Stemple Fantasy for the inspiration for this project. I loved her project, had to make one, converted her measurements to imperial measurements, and I just love the way that it turned out. You can fit a little chocolate in here, like a Hershey's Kiss or maybe a couple of Hershey's Nuggets. Really, really sweet project. I love the colors in this suite, and this is relatively easy to make. So let me show you what the suite looks like. On pages 112 and 113 of the 2021 to 2022 annual catalog, you'll find the Sweet Symmetry suite. I love the stamp set. The designer series paper is beautiful with the color choices. And in the suite collection, which is only $49, you'll get both the In Symmetry bundle, which is the In Symmetry stamp set, plus the Symmetrical Stems border punch. You'll also receive the 12 by 12 designer series paper and the beautiful Flirty Flamingo gold metallic ribbon. So let's jump right into the project. First, we're going to start with a piece of Night of Navy cardstock, and this measures 5 1/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And using the stylus, I'm just going to score this at 1 3/4 on all 4 sides. So I'll just continue to rotate. Essentially what we've done is we've divided this square piece of cardstock into 9 equal squares. So if you did want to resize this box, you'd want to make sure that you start with a square that you can easily divide into thirds. Now, the next thing we're going to do is turn this on the diagonal, and I think you'll notice on my Simply Scored, I took a black Sharpie marker and just ran that right down the 6-inch line. That helps me line up my corners to do diagonal score lines. Now let me bring in the template briefly. So we've got our cardstock in this orientation, in a diamond orientation with the corners at the top and the bottom. And we're gonna score diagonally in these outside squares, skipping that center square. So the easiest way to do that, just make sure that your corners are lined up on that black Sharpie line. And I'm gonna go ahead and score down to the intersection of score lines, skip the center section, and then score again down to the corner. Now we're going to rotate it 180 and repeat the same thing on the opposite corners. And then what you'll have is something that looks like this. So we've done those diagonal score lines in those outside squares. Now with our cardstock now in a square shape, I'm going to put it back in the upper left corner here, and we're going to make a little tick mark at 2 5/8. I'm going to rotate it 180 and 2 5/8 again. So you want opposite squares to have those 2 5/8 tick marks. Bringing in the template again, we did those tick marks at 2 5/8, and that's going to help us do these diagonal score lines. So I'm just going to grab my metal ruler and I'm going to score, let me show you on the template here, from that tick mark we made on the diagonal down to the intersection of score lines. So we're going to make those score lines now. So now our piece looks like this. You'll notice on the template that we've got these gray triangles on the outside corners, and we're going to remove those to reduce some of the bulk with the explosion box. So all I'm going to do is line up this score line with this score line on the paper trimmer, and that's going to allow us to remove those corners. So bringing in the paper trimmer again, I think you can see the horizontal and vertical score lines. We're going to line those up diagonally in the cutting groove here. And then I can just come in and cut, and that's going to remove that outside corner. So I'm going to repeat that for the remaining 3 corners. All right, so now we're left with a piece that looks just like this. And now we can come in and fold and burnish. I'm going to start with folding and burnishing on all the straight score lines. We'll wait to do the diagonal ones in just a minute. After I've done those, I'm going to focus on these corner score lines, and we're going to fold those in. And because this is cardstock, I do like to come in and burnish. And then we're going to go ahead and fold in on the remaining diagonal lines. It's a little bit harder to get into burnish, but it does help. All right, so now I think you can see this box starting to come together. We've got these two squares that have no score lines in them. That's the front and the back of our explosion box. And the rest of these are just gonna fold into the box like so. And we've got that cute little triangular explosion box. But let's go ahead and decorate this a bit. I have two pieces of the Sweet Symmetry Designer Series paper. These measure 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. And I'm going to adhere those to these two outside squares. Again, this is on the inside of the explosion box. I'm going to use liquid glue to adhere that. And then I've got a piece of Flirty Flamingo that measures 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. That's going to go in the center. And I have a piece of basic white that measures 1 1/2 by 1 1/2. We're actually going to stamp on this, but while we're stamping, I'm also going to stamp a piece for the outside of the box. And this piece measures 5/8 by 1 5/8. So while those pieces are out, we're going to be using the awesome In Symmetry stamp set. For the inside sentiment, you are perfectly unique, and the outside sentiment, hey friend. I'm going to stamp both of those in Night of Navy ink. So we're going to adhere the square piece to the Flirty Flamingo piece. Then we'll adhere this to the base of the explosion box. And when you adhere the sentiment, you do want to make sure that your untouched squares are at the top and the bottom, because it's going to fold together like so. Now let's add a tiny little bit of bling to the base of the box. I'm just going to use our gilded gems. I'm going to grab one of the small ones and just put that here in the lower right corner. We'll put that off to the side. Now I've got a piece of just jade that measures 1 3/4 by 5 7/8. We do have to do some 1/16 inch score lines here, and that is to make sure that our little belly band will fit over the triangular box. So for that, I like to use the paper trimmer because it's got 1/16 of an inch increments here. And we're first going to make a score line at 1 13/16. That is 1/16 more than 1 3/4. Next, 3 5/8. And finally, 5 7/16, which is 1/16 less than 5 1/2. Now we can fold and burnish on those score lines. And then we're going to adhere Designer Series paper, but I do want to eyeball this to figure out where my bottom is. So this is our seam on the back, this is the bottom. So we're going to adhere Designer Series paper to these two panels, the two down from that 1/2 inch section at the top. And I've cut two pieces of the Sweet Symmetry Designer Series paper to 1 5/8 by 1 11/16. That is just 1/16 more than 1 5/8. And that's to accommodate that these are slightly longer than the 1 3/4 square. So these pieces should fit just right with that extra 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to adhere that with liquid glue. Then we're going to take our sentiment and I'm going to adhere that to this middle panel, but towards the bottom of it. Like so. The next thing we're going to do, because it's easier to do this now, I'm going to bring in the Flirty Flamingo metallic ribbon, and we're going to go ahead and tie a bow right along this center section. I'm actually going to use my reverse tweezers here to help me hold the knot in place, and I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow. All right, we've got that bow tied. Now I just want to make sure that the knot of that bow doesn't slide, so I'm just going to grab a mini glue dot. And with the Take Your Pick tool, we'll just hide that right underneath the knot. All right, now all we need to do is put this belly band together. I'm going to take a piece of tear and tape and run that along this section here, but right up to the score line. Take the backing off. And because this is triangular, we're not going to be able to fold this flat to line up our score lines. So we are just going to connect this triangle this way. I'm going to line up this edge right up to that score line there. Take your time here because we don't have wiggle room with the tear and tape. And then we'll line it up like so. So there is our triangular belly band. Now the moment of truth. Let's get our explosion box ready to put in here. It's gonna be a nice and snug fit, but that 1/16 of an inch increment should give you just enough space to slide that in. And there is our adorable Sweet Symmetry triangular explosion box. I love the way that this looks. We'll slide the inside out here to show you this piece again. I love that little sentiment on the inside. What a sweet little gift box. You could throw a treat in there if you like as well, to give to a friend or loved one. On this week's live stream, I shared this coordinating card as well, and this would just be a really sweet duo to give to someone. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss my next video. If you're interested in purchasing any of the Stampin' Up! Products I used today, they'll be linked in the description. And I'll also include a link to my detailed blog post with all project measurements, details, and a picture of the template. I'd love to have you come visit me at thepaperpixie.com, where I post projects every weekday to inspire you. And if you don't want to miss a thing, you can subscribe to receive blog updates via email, and you'll receive an email each time I publish a new post. You can shop with me anytime at thepaperpixie.com/shop. And if you're interested in a discount on your Stampin' Up! Purchases, the starter kit is the ultimate bundle, and it's a great way to fill your wish list for less. You can purchase the starter kit at thepaperpixie.com/join, and I'd love to welcome you to the Stampin' Up! Family and my team of Paper Pixies. If you don't already have a demonstrator and you'd like complimentary copies of our current catalogs, you can submit a catalog request at thepaperpixie.com/happymail. And if you give this project a try, I'd love to see what you made, so feel free to share it on social media with the hashtag #PaperPixie, and I'll be sure to check it out. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Take care. Bye.